Committee meeting today, Wednesday, 24 November. And have we got apologies? I have one from Councillor Cedric. Councillor Patterson needs to leave early, and Mrs. Maxine Moana Tafongai will be late joining the meeting. She is on another call at the moment. Is there any further apologies? There have been no further apologies. I'll move them. Who seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Thompson. All those in favour, raise your hand. Against? Carried. Thank you. Confirmation status of the agenda is next item. So we've got one additional item that's been sent to you, 6.9. And we're going to move item 6.8, the report from the Chief Executive on his business plan, to the first item, as he has another meeting at 10. Is there any other requests for changes? All right, I'll move that those changes be implemented. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Gibb. All those in favour, raise hands. Carried. Thank you. Any disclosures of interest, please? There have been no disclosures of interest. We'll move to the confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held Wednesday, 13 October.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Eyre. All in favour, please raise your hand. Carried. Thank you. Welcome, Councillor Beck. Councillor Lynch. Thank you. Next item is actions register. So who's taking us here? I've got something here. Sue,
I can take us through that. Yep. Let me just bring it up on my screen. Okay, so the external facing policies, it's a work in progress, and we've discussed that previously, but it's just going to remain on the register in the meantime while the work is being carried out. You asked for an update on the resource recovery centres in both Huntly and North, and Phil has supplied an update for you there. So I won't be able to field any questions on that, and I'm not sure whether Phil is here, but we can certainly take them to him if you've got any further queries. So are there any questions on that one?
Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I probably should have made it a little bit more explicit at the last meeting about just the financial assistance policy for the stock underpasses.
Oh, well, we haven't got to the stock underpass yet, so can we just deal with
No, that's in actions. Page 14.
Yeah, no, sorry, we're just looking on the recovery centre. So was that all that you were?
Yep, yeah, I was just going to, sorry, Councillor, I was just going to go down the actions one by one, so we should come to that one shortly.
Councillor Church, have you got something on the recovery centres?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. Just my question is, have we got no, it just says for the North, for that Northern Regional Resource Recovery, we've got no contractors or staff that can operate out of the North on some of these infrastructure projects, including this one?
Roger, are you able to respond to that one?
What was the specific question, Councillor Church?
Well, on the comments on the page 13 around the Northern Recovery, it's saying that you can't get access. You're wanting to do a site investigation, but it won't be access because of COVID. So I'm just asking whether, have we not got contractors or consultants or staff in the North that can look at this project as well as others? Is this?
No, that's one of our big issues at the moment, is getting contractors to cross the border, and ultimately we don't have a large amount of contractors in the Auckland area who can work out of that area. So whenever we need some work done in the North, the staff member needs an exemption to cross the border. We are putting exemption requests forward fairly sparingly, so for emergency situations or for extremely high priority work. This is seen as fairly routine work that a few months delay at this end of the project may have impacts, but we believe that we can make up that time further on. So no, we're not looking at sending people across the border for this type of work at this point in time.
Cool. Okay, so I just through the chair, I just look forward to the delivery on time then about an organic station, right? You know, as per that LTP discussion.
Yeah. I think today, I appreciate the comments, Councillor Church, but today we've got a 348-page agenda, so we need to keep comments to the point, please. So Sue, can you carry on to the next?
Yes, certainly. Future of local government, that one's closed off because we ran the, we had the workshop on the 1st of November on that one. Policy bylaw review program, there are a few questions on that, all of which been answered. So happy to field any questions on that.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Councillor.
But now I can have Mrs. Pace. Just in respect of that financial assistance policy, that's obviously been circulated to Councillor Church and Henderson. May I please receive a copy of that too? Because it's probably applicable to a lot of my northern residents.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
All right.
Okay, and the annual dog control report, that was just for some future, then we've supplied the information Councillor Church requested, and the future reports will include that additional information.
All
So we
right.
can close that one off. Yep.
Thank you. Right, we'll now move to the reports. And just before I do, I alluded to the size of the agenda this morning. There's a lot of papers to get through here. A lot of it is supporting documentation, but can we just keep on point this morning so we can get through this, please? Councillor Lynch, before I go to Gavin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In the action points, you were going to get in contact with me, but you obviously haven't had time. That's okay. I'm sure you'll get around to it. Just wanted to mention. Thank you.
All right, I'll
Cool.
follow that up.
Thank you, Sue. Gavin.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So look, I'm going to take the report as read. Look, obviously overarching all the KPIs is the impact that we have of COVID, which is impacting on our CapEx delivery, and there will be a report coming to the Infrastructure Committee around the impact it's having on our water program as well, specifically water care. So, Mr. Chair, other than that, probably the one thing that's going well is the relationship we're building with central government. So the Mayor has connected me in with some key people, and we've now got some good connections into central government, which is proving really useful and helpful. So, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to take any other questions on that.
Can you use the hands up process if anyone has questions of Gavin? Well, you had a lot of questions last month, Gavin, but it appears everyone is satisfied this month. So thank you for your report.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, we'll go back to item 6.1. And I'll move that we take all reports as read. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Lynch. All in favour? Thank you, carried. So I believe it's Melissa and Anthea, is it? For this one?
Yes.
Correct.
Good morning, everyone. So we've got the policy and bylaw update report. Just the key points to note for this reporting period is the livestock movement bylaw is currently out for consultation. So to date, we have received about 9 submissions, and I think it closes in a few days at the end of the month. And then we've got, as you'll see on the agenda, got quite a few reports around approving, seeking approval for consultation. So this is for the speed management bylaw, the dog control bylaw and policy, and the Easter trading policy. So we're seeking approval for consultation on all of those documents. And the other point to note is around the waste management and minimisation bylaw. So I did circulate an email a few weeks ago just stating that the progress on this bylaw has been delayed due to the release of the draft emissions plan from central government, which will have quite a significant impact on the content of the bylaw. So we've decided to put that one on hold for now.
All right. Is there any questions of Melissa? This is, thank you, Carol. Okay. Excuse me, Councillor here. We'll get it now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in respect of the road closures for temporary road closures, in particular motorsport, I hear on reliable information that the World Rally is coming back to New Zealand next year. So whether that ought to be expedited to get it in place before then.
we can look at that one in the broader policy review program, and based on that comment, we can look at bringing it forward for review. I think it was on our radar last year. Yeah,
Councillor, is there some pre-work being done with the locals that you're aware of this, is it, or something?
Sorry, what was that? I missed the start.
No, Councillor, is there some pre-work that's been done with the locals that you're aware of this coming back?
No, I've just heard through a higher source that the World Rally is actually coming back. Locals haven't been informed as such yet.
Righto.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I do know that, and I do know what date it's going to be and where they're going to be, but I'm not prepared to release that.
No. Well, this is a public and it's going live.
Yeah, so I do have that information.
Yeah, right. So that would be a good reason, Melissa, to actually look at bringing that forward, and if it does need review or whether it's good enough, to make sure that we've got something that covers through it. All right, thank you, Councillor Beck.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. I was just wondering if you could give some insight as to why we've got the same starting date for 3 consultations, being 1 December, and 3 different finishing dates, 14th, 16th and 23rd of January. Seems to me either to be very cunningly thought through so as to give staff time to manage it, or a fertile ground for confusion and late submissions.
So one of the things that we will be seeking through the adoption of 2 of those, so that will be 2 of those bylaws, so that will be the dog control and Easter trading as alignment of those 2 dates.
Right.
So we'll be seeking approval for that, but we are just extending out the speed management one just for that extra week to help manage workloads around staff for that.
Right, thank you. Councillor Church.
Thank you, through the chair. Melissa, just 2 parts. The first one is just around that road closures on page 20 at the bottom and page 22 halfway down, and also on page 24. We've got references to road closures and for motorsports events policies. So page 24, it's the 3rd from the bottom. Then it's the 3rd from the bottom on page 22. Funding for road closures for community events policy, and then on page 20 the same. So it seems to me, I'm just going from the names as to perhaps they could be clumped together, and I'm just giving you the heads up. I don't need the understanding now as we've got a time constraint. I'm just noticing the 3 policies there. Okay, and the second part is the same sort of thing where you've made reference to the general occupancy. Page 23, twice you referred to the general occupancy policy, which is being reviewed, but I can't find the general occupancy policy on the spreadsheet at all, only the 2, which is the licensing for grazing and the leasing for reserves, I think. So again,
I can respond to the road closures one. So they are 2 actually separate policies. So one is funding for road closures, and then the other one is a policy around applying for and when roads can be closed and the requirements around those.
There's 3.
I couldn't find the other one. Sorry,
can you send that through offline, please, and rather than take up time now?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. There being no other questions, there is a resolution there on page 15, which is slightly different to receiving the reports, that the report be noted. So we have someone to move that resolution. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor McAnally, all in favour? Thank you, carried. All right, the next one, National Health Policy Statement on Urban Development 2020. Insertion of housing bottom lines, page 31, Chaljit.
Good morning, Chair and Councillors. I'm here to speak to the report on the insertion of housing bottom lines as required under the National Policy Statement on Urban Development. Please take the report as read. Do you have any questions?
No, in that case, is some Axel, do you, yes.
Yeah, that's all good. Happy to move option 1.
All right, so that's the recommended manager change approved. So there's the recommendation there, but it's you're right to look that to option 1.
Yes.
Is there a
So-
need to change that? Have I got the right one? Yes, I've got it. Page 32. Does it need an amendment to that resolution, or are you moving that resolution as planned with option 1?
Sorry. So yes, we're hoping to insert the minimum housing bottom lines in those particular sections within the operative district plan. So option 1, as outlined on page 34.
I'm just trying to link the page 34 to the resolution on 32, though.
So that would be option 1.
Yes, I appreciate that, and the changes to. Okay, that is it on page. So no, what I'm just wanting clarity is that a resolution sufficient to include that it includes option 1 without specifically stating option 1? That's my question. Or are you happy with it as it is, Axel?
You probably have a more detailed knowledge of the technicalities of it, but certainly the recommendation to include those numbers is what I'm seeking to move, and I think Kirsty will blind us with the technical insight.
My recommendation would be for the resolution to be inclusive of those numbers, just for clarity and just to make sure that we're all clear around where we're going.
Can you just work with can you just work with democracy? Lynette, do you want to bring something in here?
So do you just want it as where you've got outlined in section 4, option 1 of the report?
Yeah, I think we need to capture the option 1. So
so you want it actually fully written? Okay.
Yep. No, I can work with you, Lynette, regarding that. Yeah.
And can we come back to that? Remind me at the end, we'll come back to that resolution. And so we'll just adjourn this item until later on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's, Lynette, are you still happy with that?
Yep.
All right. Okay, thank you, Todd. We'll come back to you. The next item on is the Waikato District Dog Control Bylaw and Policy. So is that Sarah or Tracy?
I'll speak to that, Councillor Smith.
Oh, Hannah, thank you.
Good morning, councillors. So this report seeks approval to consult on the amended dog control bylaw and policy. Following council workshops, consultation is scheduled from 1st of December to 16th of January. We'll take the report as read. Are there any questions?
This has been highly workshopped, this item. I think everyone understands it fully.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. So that's the recommendation on page 37 in its entirety. So
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Gibb. Councillor Ear.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just once again sort of note the probably not ideal timing to go out to consultation on this, but I just highly recommend that as councillors also we share that with our communities, and the need maybe for to maybe people get their ducks in a row if they are going to make a submission and do it pre-Christmas, early December, rather than leaving it until January. So yeah, I think we will have a place as councillors in sharing this, definitely, because I can imagine it will probably elicit a number of different submissions.
Thank you for that comment, and I'll make the comment again for noting on the record that we need to get this bylaw out because we're up against a hard time frame that if we do not get it in place, we actually have no dog control bylaw. So COVID and whatever has worked against us, but we have to get this out. So we have a mover and a seconder, so I'll put that recommendation on page 37. All in favour? Hands up, please. That's the majority. Thank you. Carried. All right. Adoption of the gaming venues and policy. Anthea and Tony.
Good morning, councillors. So this report seeks the adoption of the Gambling Venues Policy 2021. As you will recall, you had a workshop last month to discuss it, and the consensus was that the policy should be rolled over. Can I just point out that there is some change to terminology within the policy just to reflect the change from the Racing Act 2003 into the Racing Industry Act 2020. So the Racing Board is now known as the TAB New Zealand. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Again, this has been workshopped and the only change is to names and legislation. So is there anyone prepared to move the adoption or recommendation?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor. And do we have Councillor Beck? Been moved and seconded. I put the recommendation on page 1, 2, 3. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. All right. Approval of the consultation on Easter trading. Lisa, is it?
I'll just jump in there, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to introduce Lisa to the corporate planning team and the wider WDC organisation. So Lisa has been with us for maybe about 5 or 6 weeks now. She joined us during lockdown and she comes from the Regional Council. So yeah, I'm very excited to finally have Lisa on board and have a full team.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Melissa. Yep, so another policy that was workshopped on the 21st of October, and Melissa held that workshop and outlined the need to review the Easter policy as it's due for review every 5 years, and that now falls to 2022, and that we need to consult under the LGA. At the workshop, councillors agreed that their preferred option would be to keep the status quo and roll over the policy to allow shops to open on Easter Sunday if they wish to. So today we're asking for approval for the proposed Easter trading policy for 2022 and for the statement of proposal to go out for consultation on the 1st of December. As noted earlier, in the documentation provided to the committee, it did have an end date of 14th of January 2022, but as Melissa advised earlier, we're going to align that with the dog control bylaw and policy consultation and have that end on the 16th. So yeah, any questions on the report or the documentation?
There was a consensus for the adoption and rollover of this. So
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Gibb.
Happy to second. Thank you and welcome, Lisa. From my past life, I used to work with Lisa, just so I'm declaring that to everybody.
All right, is it no question, but a seconding there. So is there any further matters? All right, I'll put the resolution that's been moved and seconded on page 140, that the Easter policy be consulted on. So all in favour? Councillor Lynch, well, I think we've got a majority with that. Can we just have a hands up again, please? Because, yeah, thank you. Carried. All right, so now we're moving to the revocation of policies. And Lynette, just sing out when you've got that other one sorted. So we go to the revocation of policies. Anthea.
Right, so this report proposes that 11 policies are revoked. They are quite old policies, some dating back to the 1990s, where there are policies that are proposed to be revoked today, but there's perhaps a policy review happening next year. Their staff are confident that existing documents such as reserve management plans or terms of references do cover what's being revoked. So there should be no issue with there being a gap there, but I'm happy to answer any questions that councillors may have on these 11 policies.
Has anyone got questions? Thank you, Councillor Church.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree with it. I'm happy to move this, but just a question, I guess, for example, the rural road lighting policy, prioritization policy, and I think also the fencing of reserves. So I get that we wanted to revote them in relevance, but I actually like the criteria ranking idea in them. That seemed like a logical way of us overall assessing where our priorities were, because obviously it looked like a lot of work had gone into the traffic volumes weighting factors, so that we can, rather than ad hoc, we can actually just do this analysis over time on areas. And I know these two particular areas in the two particular subjects in rural areas are high priority. So then how do we manage them? So I really am just making sure that we have another place that we can actually look logically, like there seems to be some sort of format to do this consistently over time. Page 175 is an example, if councillors wanted to have a look. But the ranking is really same for lighting as well as for footpath priorities from the rural areas. So I just want to make sure that we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, that we do actually look at these things in that in an objective way, and that some of the perhaps good parts of these revoked policies are perhaps segues into the reviews of our new policies.
All right, good points, thank you.
Yeah, so is that a yes, like, or to all of that?
Oh, I think
yeah. Okay.
Sorry, carry on.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say I'll make sure that that is fed back to the SME.
And I just hope perhaps through you, Mr. Chair, that this thing about rural areas, particularly around footpaths and lighting, because I know these are issues that, I mean, we've all been dealing with our rural areas. Perhaps as an action point as to how this is picked up and how we actually make those decisions would be a relevant action point for all of us to be interested in.
I think it's a good point for the staff to consider. I hope you're not suggesting that we start building footpaths in the rural area as a common practice.
No, we do them. Well, we're mostly all rural, aren't we? You know, people would say us. But yeah, I know. No, it's not about that. It's about actually, you know, what is the alternative that we do have, and so we actually do. You know, when we do them, have we got what sort of criteria in place? I'd be interested into what those processes are.
All right, thank you. It's been noted. Councillor Willison.
Yeah, and I'd like to support that. That's exactly the same point I had with footpaths in the rural area. There's almost an unofficial policy of no footpaths in the rural area. Excuse me. And so, if the community wants one, how are they going to go about it? And it's along the same lines. So I just want to make sure that certain situations they do need a footpath, and it's still able to be done.
All right, thank you. Staff have noted that. Are there any further questions, please? All right, so there'll be no further questions. We have a recommendation there on page 154. Is someone prepared to move that, please?
I did already.
Oh, sorry, yes, thank you, Councillor Church, and seconded. Thank you, Councillor Rea. All right, I'll put the resolution. All in favour, please raise their hands. That's carried, thank you. All right. Before we get into the speed boiler, are you ready for the other one that we, Lynette? Can we go back to that one? So we'll go back to 6.2 and just looking at the amended. Can you share screen with that, or could what the amended resolution is, please?
I'm just pulling it up for you now.
Thank you.
Now, can you see that?
Yes, thank you. Councillor Beck, you were looking to move and second. Are you happy with this now, with the inclusion of option 1 spelled out?
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. And who was the seconder on that? Did we have one?
No, I wasn't.
Councillor Patterson, was that you?
Yep. Yeah, I'm happy to move. Thank you.
Right. So moved Councillor Beck, seconded Councillor Patterson. Thank you. Can we take, is anyone still requiring to look at this now? All right, can we take the screen down, please, Democracy? All right, you've seen the amendment there, which now includes the actual wording. Thank you, Kirsty, to include in the resolution. So that we go back up to 6.2. It's been moved and seconded. All in favour, please show your hands. All right, majority there, thank you, carried. All right, now we're down to 6.7, the proposed speed limit bylaws, which was well workshopped a month or so ago.
Atamaria, councillors, Mr. Chair.
This report seeks approval to consult from the 1st of December to the 23rd of Jan. The proposed amendments stretch across the district, focusing on school roads and on the alignment of speeds between existing and newly developed areas. As with previous years, we will have an information page on our website and interactive maps that allow the user to view current and proposed speeds. Also, along with what we've proposed, the submission form asks for general feedback, which may provide opportunity to address any other road speeds in the hearing report. I take the report as read and ask if there are any questions.
Mayor Allen.
Yeah, look, as you quite clearly stated, this has been well workshopped. I think it's now time for it to go out and see how the community feel about it across the district. So I'm happy to move it.
Thank you. Councillor Church.
Yeah, I think it was a brilliant piece of work. I think it's really easily read, and I'm happy to second it if you're willing to take those.
Yes, I'll take the move.
I think it's a fantastic job and very clear and very easy to read and very easy for people to look up areas of where they want to submit. So, fantastic report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maguire.
The Martingi village was forgotten about somehow in this exercise, and so I suppose the only way I can alter it is get them to put submissions into it. The thresholds and the speed were meant to be moved out and didn't happen. And on the page 211, where Martingi's shows up, that hasn't been identified at all. So it needs fixing one way or another.
Well, Councillor, you did well in your rousing of the troops on the representation review, and plenty of submissions there. I invite you to do the same and support this going out for consultation so you can do exactly that. Thank you very much for your comments. Councillor Rea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, once again, I am concerned about the timing and also really cognizant that we've got a number of particularly important bylaws going out over Christmas for consultation. Is this one potentially that, I mean, I understand the urgency of it, but bombarding people with lots of bylaws over the Christmas period is not ideal. I'm really worried about that.
I appreciate your thoughts, but the reality is Christmas is nearly 4 weeks. It's 4 weeks away. The world doesn't end just because we recognise a special day, and the world does not shut down, as you well know. Life carries on. So I think the issue here is that our comms team and we as councillors communicate on the social media pages and encourage people to get involved. But I do note your point, and I accept some people may miss out if they're fully engaged elsewhere, but we cannot stop because a public holiday comes along the way.
I just, to that point, I just wonder if there's any evidence that we have when documents go out for consultation over this Christmas period, the proportional number of submissions made. Do we have a significant drop? Is anyone able to answer that? So if it's an important matter, the holiday period doesn't stop them.
Well, if I look at what Federated Farm, we offered Federated Farm as an extension of the stock movement bylaw to go beyond the Christmas period, and the feedback that came back through their Northern President was that no, we need to get on with our life and do not extend it. We will get the submissions in. If a matter is important to people, they will get the submissions in. So I think those who are looking out for this sort of thing and the cons that we can deal with, we will get it out there. And if we don't think we've got the response, we can always extend the period and go out again and ask for more. So all is not lost, Councillor Rea.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Gibb.
You can look at it another way, and that is that over that period, people have more time because they're maybe on holiday and they're not working. And if they're working from home, I think we can get to them. So I see pros and cons, but it's a balancing act. And if we look at the stats of the people that submit to all of our requests for consultation across the whole year, it's reasonably low anyway. I just recommend that we push these things to our specific areas. That's all I can say. So I agree with you, Councillor Smith. Thank you.
Thank you. That's not often we do that, Councillor Gibb, but that's good to know. All right. So there being no further questions, we have a mover and a seconder, I believe, with the Mayor and Councillor Church, wasn't it? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Raise your hands. Well, that's a majority. Thank you. Carried. All right, so we've now got the additional paper 6.9, which is in the Dropbox as well. And I assume that's Rebecca, is it? Or
yes.
Who's talking to the? Oh, yes, there she is. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, councillors and chair. So I will speak to the report for the strategic review of community connections documents. So the key outcome of this report was a thorough review, taking in a stock take, streamlining and creating a new outcome for our strategic documents within the community connection space. So I'll take the report as read and more than happy to answer any questions.
Well, this one hasn't been workshopped, so I do expect some questions. So, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory and it's a good paper. Thank you, Rebecca. Jim.
Yeah, I just want to also reassure the committee that Rebecca and her team have been really closely linked to the planning roadmap work that we've been doing to look at how everything fits together, strategies, policies, et cetera. And this is really great to have a team of subject matter experts that are not only doing the operational work, but that are able to that put their minds to this and the streamlining aspect of it in particular. So this does link up to the conservation strategy in a couple ways, but also to our other policies. So I just really want to endorse that from a different department, but we're all one team. So just want to share that.
It's great to see you're not working in silos. That's brilliant. Councillor Beck.
Yeah, thank you. And let me start by saying I absolutely get the sense of a stock take as a starting point. I think that's a good way to go. I am conscious also that we seem to have missed some some opportunities, I suppose, by having separate strategies, and we've sort of failed to the overview or the interconnectedness of some of these, what are quite related things. At the simplest level, that trails should lead somewhere, for example, to our facilities. There is, though, also, I'm just conscious things move at different speeds. And I'm just wondering, with more of an omnibus sort of an approach, is there still the ability to pull out elements of it for review as a result of, let's take the Te Awa cycleway, for example, something like that happens, or somebody else does something else, and we should respond a bit more nimbly than the bulk of the omnibus policy. Is there still scope for that going forward?
Yes, definitely. So the main intention is that these documents don't remain static, that the detail that we usually have within them, say the specific projects we want to target, actually sit in a implementation database or a list that we're able to access, and also have the data sets that support that decision making. So these will more be guiding documents of how do you make those decisions when a new say Te Awa cycleway comes in, how do we assess it against the other needs we have across the communities, and what can we safely support moving forward. So it's capturing all those intentions as opposed to specific projects. Yeah.
And obviously longer term, we're going to be quite conscious of things that come through from the blueprint lists. How is that intended to be the new omnibus sort of proposed framework? How is that meant or intended to be responsive to blueprint and other community aspirational projects?
So I can jump in, but I'm sure Jim could answer this just as confidently. The databases that we're going to set up alongside these strategies is going to start including those blueprint projects, I suppose. So, for example, where a lot of the communities have said they want trails to link from here to here, that will now be mapped and into a spatial database and also ranked. So we can see it'll be, one of the factors will be it's a blueprint. So it's actually already consultated, it's high priority, and that will raise it up higher on that list. But at least bringing together all the different projects we've got. So blueprints is one avenue we've identified that will definitely be implemented through some of these strategies where they're appropriate. Blueprint spreads much further than just our community connection space.
Thank you.
Councillor Church.
Thank you, through Mr. Chairman. Yeah, great idea, great piece of work to be strategic. I think one addition is some of these strategies, or let's say what you call asset specific strategies, would be partnership-led projects and the strategizing around those. So there are some where councils maybe have input in LTP project, as well as the community are working with them in partnership, and there's some processes around that and policies and procedures, which I feel, one, they've been flagged in the LTP, but and coming up, one example would be the Tuakau Skate Park, where it's a partnership, and I don't see the processes in place. I think that needs an area that could be looked at. I really like what you're doing, and I guess in the type between infrastructure and the strategies, I think, and you know, we've got blueprinting, as Councillor Beck said, or LTP projects and how they fit in with the strategies and updating those things. Great idea. I guess I'd like to see, I guess, when we're, let's say, a year down the track and you've done this work, how does council use these updated strategies to continually keep doing our knitting and our business as usual, so that we have we've done our consultation, we've done our strategies, we've done our policies, we've done our LTP projects, and therefore stick to the knitting, so that when other new things come up, we can go, yes, we'd like to do that, but that will have to slot in at X rather than A. Because I think that's missing in this thing is how we stick to the knitting of what we need to do, which is an inordinate amount of work. And then it feels sometimes we fly by our pants. So I'd like some thinking around that and some feedback. If you understand what I'm happy to explain that further, Jim. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, it might be something that could be done offline. It's
yes.
not. Yeah, it could be developed.
If I could quickly summarise your question, I hope that our LTP does set out a 3-year program for our projects, but if something higher priority comes in between, how are we assessing that and refunding that through the ability we have? Is that the question?
Or not, but more like, how do we strategically use these live documents that are forever be revolving, as you said? That's what you're wanting one of the things to be able to say in a year's time when something comes up. Hey, I've got a widget. How does that fit within our existing strategies and our work plan and our this, that, and the other? I don't think we actually refer back to a strategy very often in chambers, for example, or in a workshop as to what our priorities are, and then to then make decisions based on what we've already consulted and strategized and planned and budgeted.
Yes, brilliant. That's noted. I'll be in touch.
Yeah, I'm a little confused, Councillor Church, insofar as the LTP is a 10-year document of work programs, prioritising the first 3 with review, and that's what our budgets are set on. So there are times when there are emergency or something that I've identified that has to be dealt with in a priority, and we make resolutions when reports are brought that we override the LTP on the best advice and needs. So those processes currently exist, in my view. So I don't know, perhaps just Jim, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the things that we grapple with when we think about whether we're working on or developing a strategy, a policy, or a plan is that a strategy is meant to be strategic and have a bit of a lifespan in terms of this is where we want to go and this is broadly how we want to get there, some principles, et cetera. Some of the problems that we've had with previous strategies is, as Rebecca mentioned in her report, is that they get into quite a bit of detail as to the specific actions, and everyone wants actions because that's how you implement plans. But sometimes if that's too fixed in the strategy, then it becomes out of date and people ignore it, even though it's got the really good principles in there. So I guess the thing is, we have a number of tools across the organization, including what Councillor Smith just referred to in terms of amending the work program, while still keeping the strategy live. So we don't have to be amending strategies every week as individual projects might emerge or subside.
All right, now good point raised, Councillor Church. Thank you, and I think Rebecca's got that on board. So, is there any other questions, please? All right, well then there's a recommendation that we, I think it's note the report, that be there on the supplementary page 3. Is someone prepared to move that? Thank you, Councillor Beck and Councillor Eyre. All in favour, please say aye. Or up, hands. Aye. Thank you. That seems to be a majority. Yes, carried. All right. We have dealt with all those items. I believe we've finished the agenda. Is anyone going to disagree with that?
No, we finished the agenda, Councillor Smith, but if the councillors could stay after the meeting. Yep.
Yes, we need to do, so I'm going to close the meeting now, but ask all councillors to remain on the call and all others to depart, please. There is a matter in which council has to discuss something, and the necessary staff who already know who they are to remain, please.
And obviously stop the recording.
Please.